You're living moment to moment. You're very present, which is great, but at the same time, it's very unsettling. You don't have the space to sit with your own thoughts and analyze and process what's happening. You're just so busy moving on to the next thing. And I was an expert at brushing things under the rug and just being like, if I don't give it attention, I don't have to deal with it. My mental health was very much treated that way.
Hey there, my name is Dan Murphy, and you're listening to the Don't Change Much podcast. Our guest today is Patrick Chan, the most decorated male figure skater in Canadian history, a three-time world champion, Olympic gold medalist in 2018, and two-time silver medalist in 2014. That's just to name a few of his career accomplishments. In this episode, we talk about Patrick's mental health journey, including one of his hardest transitions, life after sport. All right, so pleased now to be joined by Patrick Chan. Of course, everyone knows him as the most decorated figure skater in Canadian history. But Patrick Chan has moved on from sport into everyday life. So Patrick, can you tell us what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. The last 5 years or 6 years since retiring from figure skating has been tumultuous, or I guess a bit of a roller coaster ride. I worked in commercial real estate at CBRE for 2 years, from 2020 to 2022, and then left that role there and moved into financial services. So I work at Nicola Wealth, and that's been a great experience. And each new role has been such a learning experience, both like knowledge wise, but also getting to understand who I am and how do I fit in this sort of environment outside of sport.
A lot of athletes, when they transition from sport into everyday life, and not all have the financial means to retire, and some set themselves up as their sporting careers coming to an end. Was it something you kept an eye on at all when you were skating, or did you just say, when I'm done, I'll figure it out?
Yeah, great question. I was very, very fortunate to have had parents that were, at times maybe overbearing, but it really paid dividends like further down the road where, yeah, when I retired from skating, I wasn't too concerned financially. Now, I know a lot of other amateur athletes do not. I think the majority aren't in that situation after retirement. So I had very fortunate experiences of having great results in skating, being on the Cheerios box or the Wheaties box, and had some great endorsements, some great partnerships. But it was also thanks to my parents who had the awareness of there's going to be a life beyond skating. So we have to help Patrick kind of be prepared for that, so that not just so that I'm comfortable and I can relax and not worry about paying the bills. It's also just giving me the platform to go and get an education or go and pursue a different career. It allowed me to have options. And that's really thanks to my parents, setting aside all the monies into a proper account and getting an accountant, getting a wealth advisor to take care of everything. So it made life a lot less challenging post-retirement.
Okay, well, you just said at the top that the last 6 years have been tumultuous and challenging. So if not financially, that wasn't a burden, if I'm reading it correctly. So was it just the abrupt ending of what Patrick Chan had been, who he was, into finding who he was going to be?
Absolutely. Yeah, you said it perfectly. There's nothing that can prepare you for what you're going to face when you leave a career that you've spent 20 years doing, starting at a very, very young age. And you grow up and you become a man or a woman through this career. And you've also missed out. I've missed out on a lot of key developmental experiences or years. I never went to university. I had very little connection to my peers in school, in high school. So those are things that you overlook and you don't really realize the impact until you're in your adult life, later in your adult life. And I found that my worth, my purpose, I had paid very little attention to it or done very little work to figure that out. I could always just fall back on that. I train, I eat, I sleep, and I repeat, and I compete, and everybody knows me as the figure skater. What else do I need to do? I don't need to further myself as an individual. I feel like I'm on top, but the reality is that I retired at 27, so a very, very young age and still a lot of years ahead of me. I think the biggest realization was when I moved into the workforce and moved into commercial real estate, and now where I am at Nicola. You can't rely on the applause anymore, and you can't rely on the medals being awarded every couple months, after an event. So life just doesn't work that way. That's not reality. However, that was the reality I knew for the last 20 something years. So it was a huge adjustment of just having an honest conversation with myself and relying on my partner, Liz, and just having her there for me and understanding and talking through the feelings of feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm lost. I don't know if this is the career I want. And I feel like I'm failing at this career because I don't feel happy. These are just very basic things, but things that I had never had to face years before.
So when you were waking up in those early days, commercial real estate, were these internal conversations at first you're having with yourself before you share them with your partner? Did you wake up in the morning and say, come on, get it together? You got a job.
Yeah.
Let's get going. Was this internalized at the beginning and trying to figure it out yourself before you thought I better talk this through with other people?
Absolutely. As an individual athlete, I trained on my own a lot. I was in my head a lot. Of course, the default is to internalize everything, but you can only keep a lid on it for so long. What ended up happening was I would come home after work and be like absolutely miserable. Like I couldn't be a good father. I couldn't be a good husband. I was like very short tempered. Little things would like create a blow up. Sunday would come around after the weekend and I would be so like down in the dumps, like feeling really low because of, I think subconsciously I knew that Monday was coming around and I would have to go back to that job. Then my wife Liz stepped in and was just like, okay, you need to you need to go get help. Like, and then we talked obviously, but she's not a therapist. So yeah, that was the first step, was of course talking to Liz and then exploring seeing a therapist, working through what's happening currently, and then also digging further back into the past and all that. It was a long journey. My son had just been born, so a lot of new things coming into my life, creating a bit of turmoil and chaos. But I stuck with it and got the help I needed, and now I'm in a great place. I feel like I'm in a great place.
Okay, I want to get to what the therapist said about today's life, but you said it was connected to the past. So let's go back. At what point did your life be consumed with sport? How young were you?
It's all started around the age of 11, 12.
Okay.
Figure skating, you got to remember, figure skating is a very young sport, like abnormally young, and very short career spans. So you start, by the age of 13, if you're not showing some potential little hints of talent, I guess, it's very short-lived. And then if you make it to like the top 1%, by your late 20s, time to retire. So it's very odd timing, very odd lifespan of an athlete. But it starts at a very young age. By the age of 10 or 11, I started kind of weaning out other activities and solely dedicating all my time after school, before school, to skating.
When we see these performances, there's big smiles, there's emotion, you put on a show. But I'm guessing that when you train, it's very robotic, it's very organized. You are challenged not to show much emotion, show much weakness, to be all business-like. So it always kind of seems to me like there's a dichotomy there of the performer but the person that trains is probably not a lot like the person in that 5 minutes on the biggest stage.
Yeah, you're very much a Jekyll and Hyde personality. Training is not pretty. Like training is, even to this day, I don't necessarily miss the training. I miss the competition because training was just so grueling and not pretty. But then when you get to the competition, like you're like a different person, right? Because we're in a judge sport, very subjective sport, and you're not just judged on your performance on the ice. It's how you carry yourself off the ice when you're walking to the cafeteria or you're walking through the stadium to get ready while you're warming up. There's cameras on you, there's officials walking by. So you're very much on, like you're performing the whole time. And it gets so ingrained in you that you don't even know you're doing it. And that definitely played a role in I guess the post career. And when that audience is gone, I'm the one left to deal with, I guess, that dichotomy, like you said. It's a very, very odd experience to be going through as a young man, and that's very unique to skating.
Did you enjoy being Patrick Chan in your teens and early 20s, or was there a part of you that longed to have, I'll say it, a normal life or a normal childhood and adolescence?
Yeah. When I was young, not at all. I loved what I was doing. I loved the challenge. What 16-year-old gets to travel to Europe for competitions on like a monthly basis? There's so many experiences and learning lessons that I gained from it that I never felt like, oh, I wish I could go to like movie night with all my high school friends on Friday night. No, I never felt that pull. However, it did kind of dawn on me as a later in my career that I long for a normal schedule, a normal life where I'm not traveling all the time. I want a home base. I didn't feel like I had roots anywhere until I was 28 years old. So I think that creates a bit of this, like you're living moment to moment. You're very present, which is great, but at the same time, it's very unsettling. You don't have the space to sit with your own thoughts and analyze and process what's happening. You're just so busy moving on to the next thing. And I was an expert at brushing things under the rug and just being like, if I don't give it attention, I don't have to deal with it. So my mental health was very much treated that way. Yeah.
So I'm going to see if I can understand this correctly. So when you're training, you always have something you're training for. There's always something you're looking forward to. There's always a purpose of what you're doing. And whether it be the world championships or the Olympics, so you're always trying to build to peak at that moment. When that was gone from your life, was that when you would wake up and say, what is my purpose? What am I doing today? What am I building towards?
Yeah, 100%. As a figure skater, I lived for 4-year increments at a time because those are your Olympic cycles. And within those 4 years, each year has a very specific plan, specific goals, whether it's a jump you want to achieve by the time you get to the next Olympics to up your technical abilities. There was always something to chase. And when that was gone, and you got to remember, this is 2 years after retirement, the pandemic hit. That created another unsettling environment, and it made it really hard to find the North Star, if I could say. It was very, very unsettling. I jumped on the first opportunity, which was commercial real estate, and was really hard on myself and had no prior experience to kind of understand, okay, if this is a good fit or not. I just took the first opportunity instead of maybe like sitting and thinking, okay, is this the right move? If not, maybe I'll try this opportunity. I went full on with this first career and it didn't work. And I ended up paying the price because I didn't know how to manage my expectations. I was going into this new career with this Olympic mentality, which means that you're so hard on yourself and you're just over and over again blaming yourself. You're like, I'm doing something wrong. And that, as a result, brought on a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustration, short-temperedness. Yeah, not until I worked it through, both with whether it was one-on-one therapy or couples counseling, all of it played such a key role and having an open dialogue with my family, and being honest with myself.
Okay. Well, I want to get to the healing process, but when you won the Olympic gold in 2018,
Hmm.
were you able to enjoy it, or were you already thinking about the next peak?
I I was already thinking about what I could have done better. All of my Olympic accolades, the first Olympics, came fifth at my first Olympics
Yeah.
as a 19-year-old, and I'm like beating myself up. I'm just like I'm like fifth. Like I was supposed to be on the podium. Are you kidding me? This is a home games. I should have been better. 2014 comes around, not much better. I get silver, so I land on the podium, but I felt like I lost the gold. Like that's just the perception I
Not
had.
not much better. Second in the world. Yeah, not bad.
2018, I win the Olympic team gold, right? With Tessa and Scott and standing at the top of the podium. Still not good enough. It's not what I dreamed and not what I expected. This is how messed up your mind works. I won the team event, but I didn't win my individual event. So the team event is a fake. Like it's not a real gold medal. And I still have that like little lingering human in my brain that says that. That's taken a lot of years just to be like, and a lot of YouTube videos, to be honest, rewatching those moments and being like, wow, like watching as an audience member, and it's almost like I'm watching someone else. That has actually been a huge part of the healing process. It's odd to say that, watching myself on YouTube, but it was just appreciating like, whoa, the immensity of what I had achieved. That was a part of, I guess, the healing. Yeah.
So you can look back now and be proud of those accomplishments.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, 3 Olympic games, being on the podium for 2, the countless friends I've made along the way. To do that in the first quarter of my life is amazing. But at the same time, there's moments where I think, what was it all for? Especially in where I'm at now in my life, where I'm trying to catch up. And as a 33-year-old, my coworkers are in their early 20s and I'm feeling like I'm behind. So that's what I'm working on now, is just understanding what kind of role did that figure skating, those experiences have, or what influences can I take from those experiences to bring into my life now, and how can it help me? So it's constant. It's always an ever evolving work on myself.
It's funny because Corey Hershey's done this podcast with us, former NHL goaltender. He's spoken about his mental health challenges. We'd be whatever on the bus or the plane traveling, and he'd be getting upset with somebody on Twitter or X, whatever, making fun of him for the Forsberg goal in the Olympics. I'm like,
Right.
you know what that guy would like to have? A silver medal from the Olympics and be on
Yeah.
that stamp, whether you got scored on or not. So be proud of it. I mean, it's these people getting after you don't understand what you've accomplished, and it's great things.
And how hard it is to get there, and how hard that was even to get scored on. Like that whole experience is so intense, and the work that took to get there, like people don't understand. It's just everything is so instant, and people are instant to judge or to compare. So you always got to like remember, like you got to listen to yourself and bring it back to you instead of looking outward.
So before we get to how you really started to heal and become comfortable with this stage in your life, is it fair to say that athletes that are transitioning should take time to grieve the end of their professional sporting career or amateur sporting career?
100%. You got to give yourself the time, the space, like even removing yourself from, I think it's super healthy, is to remove yourself from that bubble. I know a lot of my friends, my co-teammates, that from my observation, it looks like they're still working through that. What delays the progress in moving into who you are post Olympics is removing yourself from that environment, because there's such a strong pull to stay in your circle because it's comfortable, that it's so important to just gain some perspective and realize like there's a greater world out there beyond skating, beyond hockey. It's so healthy and such a good dose of reality. It can be scary also because you're not recognized, or you're not well known, you could say, outside of skating. I come to work and people treat you like you're just like everybody else, and that's as funny as that sounds, that is a part of that, like, oh, right. Like, that was then, I achieved what I achieved. Now it's time to grow up and move into the next career and build a name in something else other than skating. That's always been my approach.
Mhm.
I know some who love coaching and love to stay involved in the sport. That's awesome. And that's part of your healing or your transition. But for me, coaching didn't appeal to me. So I had a bit of a harder road ahead of just like, okay, I'm leaving this comfortable circle of people that I'm recognized. I walk into an ice rink, people know who I am. I gain the respect right off the bat. I'm leaving that and I want to rebuild. I want to build a good reputation in something else. But that's come with its challenges, but I think at the end of the day will be highly rewarding.
You said that when you first went to commercial real estate, you were beating yourself up because I'm guessing you were thinking, I was 1% in the world in figure skating, and now, damn it, I'm going to be 1% in the world in commercial real estate, even though you just put 16 years of your life into one to get there.
Yeah.
And then you put
Yeah.
6 months of your life into the next one. So what was it that when you started talking to a therapist,
Yeah.
what were the messages he shared that kind of made the light go off for you to start enjoying present day Patrick Chan, being someone in just the everyday workforce, being a husband, being a father, to enjoy the everyday and instead of fight it?
It was slowing everything down and slowing my expectations down, appreciating those every single element of my life, like what you mentioned, being a husband, being a father, being a commercial realtor, or having a job, working on myself, taking a step back, appreciating what I had accomplished. Those were all those like 5, 6 elements were things that I had to individually acknowledge and appreciate and understand that ha- all managing all of those qualities is hard. It's not easy. Life is busy. So just taking the time to, okay, think I have a 2-year-old at home. I'm staying involved in skating, but I'm also juggling work. Like, yeah, of course I'm stressed. Like just the mindfulness of that, right? Instead of running away from it and going about my day and trying to forget about it, it's the mindfulness to just be like, okay, I'm feeling like not good. I'm not feeling either physically or mentally. I feel a bit foggy. Okay, why? So it's talking through the process of why do I feel this way? Um, because as an athlete, you're just taught to like suppress it and just replace it with more hard work and repetition. You're not giving yourself the space to have that discussion with yourself.
Instead of
Um,
realizing that as an athlete, you have good training days and bad training days. In life,
yep.
you have good days and bad days.
Exactly. But as an athlete, I was like, a bad training day means that I failed or that I didn't understand the key point to make this successful. I don't know. You find some reason to not accept a bad day. So that was a huge one for me, was that understanding that once a week, I need to allow myself the space and the time to kind of mourn, or not mourn, but like work through just everything feels a little harder today. Well, that's how it's going to be today, and tomorrow will be better. I remember reading something that said that as humans, we cannot accept feeling good. Like we feel that feeling good is danger, as opposed to just enjoying feeling good, like having a good day, being like, hell yeah, this is awesome. Like I'm gonna enjoy today. It's a beautiful day. I feel positive. I'm optimistic about my career. I can't wait to see my son. Like I really embrace those days because I know that that's not going to be every single day on a consistent basis. Yeah, that's kind of how I process the highs and the lows.
From what I read, one of your coaches early on didn't talk about mental health. In this day and age, you see sports psychologists and more athletes speaking openly during
Mhm.
their playing days about getting
Yeah.
help. Do you think that had you have had sports psychologist in some of those formative years, that the transition wouldn't have been difficult? Is it, or is it hard to predict because it was the end of your sports career and into a new stage in your life?
Yeah, great question. I think 100% I could have benefited from a sports psychologist. Would it have prepared me for this later part post competitive career period? No. I think I probably would have wanted to speak to a different therapist, honestly.
Mhm.
Sports psychologists are very different than your everyday therapist. Sports psychologist is very targeted to how do you make yourself be mindful during competition when you have all these emotions and all this anxiety. How do you control that? So I feel like it's more um, from my experience, you're given a lot more tools to manage your stress level and your internal dialogue as a sports psychologist or as a competitor. To answer your question, I highly recommend, like, yes, I wish I could go back in time and speak to a sports psychologist, at age 12 or 13 even. I very much relied on my parents, and because I was so young, that's obviously a natural, but at the same time I didn't have anyone. I don't have siblings, and I was very alone, and I didn't have someone to talk to. Like, just outside of my coach, outside of my parents, just talking about how do I feel individually, like, and think again internally. I didn't have that space to have that conversation with myself. But would it have made this process that I'm going through now easier? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it would have changed as well. It would have evolved into, okay, now we're talking about a different narrative or a different story, a different theme.
Different
It's
challenge.
completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you ultimately shared your story and felt comfortable enough to speak about what you had gone through, what you were going through, what was your reaction from some friends or former competitors? Did you have people reach out to you?
Unfortunately, no. That was a bit of part of the challenge, is that I felt very like black and white. Like, because we had no competitions, because we didn't have these extremely exciting moments of competition to bring us all together. When we didn't have that, the glue was gone and we all moved on. I used to talk to Scott Moyer all the time, and now it's like we barely talk. But that's life. And being in Vancouver versus being on the East Coast probably has a reason. But that was a tough pill to swallow. These are people that I spent every single year, month after month, day after day with this group, and now I don't have anybody to talk to about what's happening. But that's okay. And I thankfully had Liz, I had my family to fall back on and work this through. And I just unfortunately never had an opportunity to share it with anybody. And it's a very personal thing to talk about that I maybe don't necessarily want to share, because let's say a teammate of mine is going through it and in the skating world coaching, it's hard to relate because I had decided to remove myself from the world of skating. So it almost was a topic that people didn't really want to talk about. That's the sense I got.
That might be the
And
difference between an individual sport and a team sport too, right?
yep,
You know,
absolutely.
grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. And having the structure to support the individual athlete. There's no phone number, there's no like pamphlet, or there's no something after you finish your career. Nobody's there to, everyone's more than happy to prop you up and support you while you're competing. But the minute you're not, you have nothing to offer, I guess. It's harsh to say, but when you're not on the national team or you're not a brand of some kind, you're kind of left to the wayside and you're left to your own devices. There's definitely not an easy, it's not easy. Like, I had to find a good therapist, I had to dig through my own pool of local friends. And friend that was, she has a PhD in psychology. Like, I reached out to her to, hey, do you recommend anyone? Which is shocking, right? Like, you would think an Olympic team member would be able to find information about getting help through this period of time. Yeah.
So more good days than bad days now, though, Patrick? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And is there a physical component to your healing in your everyday life? Do you need to stay connected that way in order to be the best version of yourself?
I'm not a gym rat. Like I don't go to the gym every day, and it's not like a must. To be honest, I hate the gym because I've spent so many years in the gym. It brings back gives me the heebie jeebies. What I love to do though is I have like beer league hockey every Sunday. Every Sunday at one of the rinks here. I can't wait. I get ready an hour before I have to leave. I get all my stuff ready. I tape my stick. I just get really into this like mode of I love the routine. I love seeing those guys that I get to play hockey with. We get there early, like a few of us, the closer ones. We get there early, we chit chat. Like those are the key things that I feel like I need that. Whether it's just talking about the week or talking about what's upcoming, I just love the banter. And then we get on the ice and we play like a physical game. That is a huge, really important part. It's late at night. Like it's Sunday at like 11 p.m. Like, and my wife is at first she was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're not doing this. And I think after a while, she's like, yeah, you need this. This is really something important for you. So you go do it.
Now, don't do
So
7 nights a week, but Sunday.
exactly. Exactly. It's great. I may feel a little tired Monday morning, but it's like what I look forward to. It's like a little treat at the end of the week. I just recently got back on the ice for figure skating because I'm getting ready to go on tour for Stars on Ice for the spring. And that's been great. I go to the rink in the morning. It's Liz and I just practicing, and it's a great kind of workout. That's my workout, is going to the ice and using the left side of your brain versus the right side of the brain throughout the day. I love that switch of just being the creative Patrick and then coming to work and being the more analytical Patrick, right?
Yeah. Well, you said the gym gives you heebie-jeebies, but there's no resentment to going back on the ice to skate?
No, but that was a process too. That was a process. And probably, of course, the pandemic played a role, but for I want to say at least a year and a half, 2 years, I didn't even go to the rink. Never put my figure skates on.
Yeah.
Because there was a bit of this, I'm above skating because I'm now a commercial realtor. I don't need skating, right? And then I quickly realized like how special skating is. It made me back in love with skating because I removed all the expectations. There was no, I'm skating to go to the Olympics. It was just getting on the ice, putting on some fun music, like putting your earpods in when you're going to the gym. Same thing, putting music on, just skating, feeling, and then challenging myself with jumps, like eating shit and killing myself, but laughing about it as opposed to being hard on yourself. And then being able to be on the ice with Liz, my wife, and choreographing. It's like the best thing ever because you're with your partner, your favorite person, and then you're creating something. You're creating an piece of art on the ice together. Like there's something really special about that. You don't get that kind of like high from anything else.
And not consciously, but in those moments, you're working on your mental health too.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're not really thinking but you're having fun and this is helping. I want a couple more here. You're going to go Stars on Ice. Oliver is how old now?
He's almost 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
So he'll be able to watch and smile, but are you looking forward to at some point when he's a little older and able to understand to showing him 2010, showing him 2014?
Absolutely. It's already kind of happened.
Yeah.
When I earlier mentioned like part of the healing was like watching old YouTube videos of myself. That was because my son was also beside me and he was watching, and Oliver was like, he loves it. He would then he gets off the couch and starts like skating in the living room, and he does like these little like 180s. It's the best. It's so endearing and it's a very proud moment of just like, at the end of the day, you're just wanting to create entertainment, and my son is the greatest audience. And I love that I'm able to just inspire him to like be expressive and move to music and be musical. We didn't teach him that. That's just him putting the pieces together, watching the video and watching me and like him pointing to the TV and being like, Papa, Papa. And then we're like, oh, he wants to watch me on YouTube. Like, it's just such an amazing time to be able to do that. And it's part of that appreciation of just the gratitude of, wow, what I achieved was truly like amazing and grateful to be able to have experienced that.
So the title of the podcast is Don't Change Much. So whether you wake up, it's a good day or a foggy day,
Mm.
what are the little things you try to do each and every day to continue on your journey to be at your best mentally and physically, emotionally? What are the small steps you try to make sure you do to achieve that?
Appreciate the little things and taking the time to acknowledge what you're doing and how important it is. My job, I would say my role as a father is, for example, taking the dog out in the morning. As simple as that is, for me, this is like, again, for me, is like a check of like, okay, this is the start to my day. I've done one of my roles and I should appreciate that. Just slowing down and appreciating the little things. I'm not going to experience something as amazing and great as the Olympic Games again, but I can add all these little highlights, all these little bits of what I do to create that, I guess, that something even greater than the Olympic Games. Like showing up for Liz, showing up for my son, being the best father I can be. And I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, but being able to slow down and be vulnerable, Liz telling me like, hey, that wasn't cool, or maybe next time don't do that and maybe do this instead. Like just taking the time to understand, okay, I'm not the perfect figure skater. There's no such thing as a perfect father or the perfect husband, and embracing the process of that is, I think, so important.
That's perfect. Instead of chasing the every 4-year ultimate high, you try to chase the daily highs and
Yeah.
appreciate those victories, because I'm sure the judges would have given the dog walk this morning a perfect 10. I'm guessing. Well, Patrick,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I know it's going to help people, especially athletes transitioning to everyday life, and just those people that want to better themselves. And even if someone betters themselves incrementally every single day, it's gonna really help with mental and physical health in the long run. So we appreciate your messages.
Thanks, Murph. I appreciate you taking the time and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Click the follow button if you enjoyed the conversation, and join us each month for a new episode of the Don't Change Much podcast. To learn more about what you can do to improve your mental wellness, check out MindFit Toolkit at menshealthfoundation.ca.